We are going to talk about ethics. We are going to talk about building a culture of integrity.
Leadership is fundamentally the moral compass of the organization. Leaders actually set the tone at the top, but that's not enough. Leaders need to walk the talk.
Like you said, walking the talk, training the people and rewarding this behavior. These form the foundation of building a culture of ethics in an organization. I want to delve a little bit into this ethical behavior because it seems that as we are progressing in time, even with technological advancements, this ethical behavior is becoming a rare species. I want to understand that how important is ethical behavior to attract talent, to retain talent, and to drive operational efficiencies. In the first episode of the Culture Code, we have a very, very special guest. His name is Mr. Soumitra Das. Welcome to the Culture Code, Soumitra.
Thank you.
Before we delve into the questions, I would like to introduce you for all our viewers today. So, Soumitra, with over 35 years of leadership experience across manufacturing, technology, healthcare, logistics, and GCCs, Soumitra Das has shaped the people agenda for some of the world's most complex matrixed organizations. As a global CHRO of Redington Group, he led HR strategy across 28 countries and multiple subsidiaries, aligning culture, productivity, and shareholder value with the group's business goals. He is a data-driven, ethics-led HR leader. Soumitra is well known for transforming culture into a measurable competitive advantage. His expertise spans across M&A integration, organizational design, digital transformation, and leadership development, all grounded in the belief that ethics and culture are the hardest shields against business risk. Recognized amongst the 51st most innovative HR tech leaders by Asia Pacific HRM Congress and recipient of India's greatest CHRO award, Soumitra continues to champion human-centered innovation at the intersection of HR, technology, and leadership. He is an XLRI alumnus, certified ICF coach, and an avid music lover. He embodies the blend of strategic foresight and empathy that defines the future of HR. Once again, Soumitra, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Sriyashi, for the warm welcome. And I'm sure this podcast is going to be a very popular podcast within the HR fraternity. So wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Really need this. And I'm so glad that you are part of the podcast and you're the first guest. And so are we ready? Can we start the questions?
Absolutely.
So today's podcast is about, we are going to talk about ethics. We are going to talk about building a culture of integrity. So on that premise, my first question to you is this, that from the boardroom, you've been in so many boardrooms across so many different organizations across your illustrious career. How do you think a leadership of a company should foster a culture of integrity?
Great question. Leadership is fundamentally the moral compass of the organization. Okay, leaders embody the integrity or the trust and the transparency that they wish to see in a culture, right? So leaders actually set the tone at the top. Okay, but that's not enough. Leaders need to walk the talk.
Absolutely.
All right, and there is where leaders need to do quite a few things. Number one is that they have to make sure that they are following the principles of integrity, transparency, trust in the things that they do, in their decision making, okay, the way that they treat people, how they appraise performance, okay, some of the functions that they lead in the organization. Secondly, is that they should make sure that the values and principles that are integral to a ethical culture is communicated down, cascaded down to the workforce, okay, formally and informally. Okay, I know an organization where, every morning there are stand-up, kind of get-togethers where they're discussing the day's things to do, and it ends with a little bit of discussion on ethics and a little bit of discussion on how we can promote this ethical culture, especially into newcomers into the organization. Okay, so first thing is that communicating it very, very systematically, informally and formally. The second thing is to invest on leadership training, okay, in terms of culture and in terms of how, business ethics and, business conduct guidelines are created to provide guardrails to the organization, which employees must look at. The next thing is to reward integrity. Okay, you might say a lot of stuff, but how to reward integrity, collaboration, and all that is very important. All right, and the last thing is that leaders must stand up when when the going gets tough, to choose ethics before short-term business goals. I think that's the important role, or the critical role, that leaders bring into the organization in terms of creating a culture which is based on ethical behavior, on integrity, trust, and also on ability to follow compliances.
I can't agree more with you. And I think walking the talk is so important. And like you said, walking the talk, training the people, and rewarding this behavior, these form the foundation of building a culture of ethics in an organization. And ethics is such a significant part of culture. I mean, culture we can break down into so many different elements, but I think without ethics we cannot build on the other elements.
Absolutely, you're so correct.
So moving on, I would like to discuss about how do you think we can embed this? We talked about the three things that we can do, but how do you think we can nail it deep into the fabric of the organization? How do we build a culture of integrity, accountability, and making every employee a steward for this culture?
Absolutely. Again, a great question. I think before we move further into it, let me dwell a little bit on what are the definitions, or how do we kind of look at these three words: ethics, compliance, and governance. Ethics is, as I said earlier, is the moral compass. Okay, when we talk about ethics, we talk about people in an organization who are doing the right thing when nobody else is looking. Okay,
Yeah.
it's right even if nobody else is looking. It's wrong if everyone is doing it. It cannot become a right. Okay, so the first thing is to create that culture where people take responsibility of doing the right thing, and not something that is accepted by the organization or everybody else is doing, or I'm doing a shortcut or something like that. That's the first thing. Compliance is about all the laws of the land, the regulations, the policies, etc., which create guardrails for people to walk within and do the right things. Okay? But remember, those policies can help people, direct people to do the right things, but people still may not. Then there is this word governance, which is about how do I monitor that everything that's going on in the organization is, number one, ethical, it's compliant, okay? It ensures that there is no legal issues or fines or frauds, and typically the governance is looked at by senior people, it's looked at by the board of directors, whatever. So ethics, compliance, and governance, there are three parts of this. How do we get people to kind of look at that? So the first thing is compliance. It's a no-brainer. Okay, if you do not do something if you do something that's non-compliant, okay, you have to face legal action, you have to face fines and so on and so forth. It will lead to revenue loss or reputation loss. Okay, ethics is absolutely how you create a moral compass within the organization, and that's driven by culture. And ethics culture, and I did mention it to you earlier, that ethics culture is led by leaders. Okay, it is about how things are done here which is not written. All right, it is about when things go all wrong, you are in a crisis situation. What is the right thing for you to do? Because it is not written in your policy handbook, it is not written in your HR handbook or whatever it is. All right, governance is about how innovatively, your senior team or the upper management is creating a reporting mechanism, an audit mechanism to the compliance people that, okay, we are blind. So how do we do all this, bring all this together? Okay, we number one, emulate behavior. Leaders have to do that, right? Number two is to set up a communication medium. Number three is to create a culture of speak up where people are confident about bringing out issues which they observe themselves or which they experience themselves, observe, and they say, hey, this is where there's a red flag. Okay? The fourth is investing time and effort in training people to become compliant, training people about things like unconscious bias. All right? And the last but not the least is that creating a culture where everybody supports each other to take the right decision. Okay? So, for example, we have a company which does employee risk advisory. And we talk about 3-4 things, which is very important. The first is about assessment. Assess that you have the right kind of, guardrails around you. Because employees can be your biggest asset. They can be your biggest liability too. All right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And when and how do they provide risk? Risk is, they could be ignorant about certain things, okay? A link comes in and a guy presses on it and everything gets jammed. They could do it voluntarily. They could get malicious, okay? The third thing is that become negligent about their work, okay? So when we talk about employee risk advisory, we talk about 3 things. Number 1, assess whether you have the right guardrails. Number 2 is prevent. Create all the policies that prevent the business conduct guidelines, etc. The third is, protect. And the final one is recover. So I think it's important to, therefore, instead of taking the first 3 things and create a culture around it of ethics in an organization, which does 2 things. It helps you. It is a lever for strategic growth, and it's a huge lever for sustainability, taking the organization into the future.
Wonderfully said. In fact, one of the senior leaders that I worked with previously used to say that honesty is to others and integrity is to yourself. So I think that integrity to oneself is very important, and that sort of percolates down, the layers of the organization, and it has a sort of a ripple effect. If one person is a fraud and the leadership overlooks that behavior, we can see that can trickle down like a ripple effect across the organization, where people may say that this behavior is okay. This is acceptable.
Exactly.
So thank you for this amazing answer. I'm sure you've given out all the trade secrets. Now moving on to the next segment. So in the previous segment, we talked about how we can design the compliance and the governance structures in the organization, how we can train people, how we can create a ripple effect of good behavior. Now, I want to delve a little bit into this ethical behavior, because it seems that as we are progressing in time, even with technological advancements, this ethical behavior is becoming a rare species. So, I want to understand that how important is ethical behavior or an ethical culture, building an ethical culture is important in an organization to attract talent, to retain talent, and to drive operational efficiencies.
Absolutely. You are absolutely right, Sreshi. I think it's important for organizations to promote ethics or an ethical culture, because it does quite a few things that promote, number 1, operational efficiency. So, for example, moment you have an ethical behavior, people start trusting each other more. Trust brings in collaboration. Collaboration breaks down operational silos. Everybody is now working for a single mission towards the organization, which is fundamentally leading towards profitability and growth. Okay, attrition comes down. Why? Because people like to always work for an organization which is ethical. Especially Gen Zs now, they have a purpose.
Yeah.
They are looking forward, they're preferring organizations which have a more ethical fabric than others who don't.
Yeah.
Okay. So talent is retained, talent is attracted. You create a very strong employer value proposition. Okay. And I think that leads to less revenue loss, leads to more, kind of reputational. And when you look at all the stakeholders here, whether it's customers, whether it's employees, whether it's shareholders, everybody wants to be associated with an organization that has got a high ethical compass. Even in, for example, when you're doing M&A these days, I help a few organizations who do M&A or who are going the IPO route. The first thing that investors or people who want to invest in the organization are looking at a culture match, and they're looking at how important is your culture in terms of ethics.
I can't agree more, especially you mentioned the Gen Zs who are driven by purpose. Definitely, I think ethics is one of the main things driving the Gen Zs. They want to work with companies who have a purpose, who have a goal, who have sustainability in their mission, who have an ethical culture in their mission. More than money, they are driven by this purpose. So I think that's a point very well iterated. The second thing, I feel that anybody who is going for M&A, it's not just before M&A, when you are choosing the right partner to merge with or get the right investments, it's also after the M&A. That how that culture percolates into the new organization that the organization's merged with is so important.
Yeah,
So very well said.
Correct. And there are numerous studies. I mean, you can have McKinsey, Deloitte, KPMG, who have said that, typically most M&As fail because there's a culture mismatch. And therefore, most people are looking for investing in a company which has got a strong cultural fabric.
Okay, so delving into the next segment, I think any discussion in today's times is incomplete without touching upon AI. AI is everywhere. It is not coming for us. It is already here. And we all know that if we don't learn AI or if we don't upskill ourselves in AI, irrespective of any industry or any field that we are talking about, I mean, we will be very soon, redundant species. And it's not something what I'm saying, it is something that is already proven. So as we speak, we have already come across so many cases as recent as, say, 2 months back, where Sam Altman himself, he made so many changes in the OpenAI models to induce or to introduce the ethical responses that an AI gives when a teenager is typing anything in ChatGPT. I don't want to delve in detail of the case, but this brings me to my point that how important do you think it is to focus on building new technologies like AI around ethical premises? Secondly, AI, uses LLM. And we know that there can be a lot of algorithmic bias. There can be a lot of data privacy issues because people are using ChatGPT, Gemini, DeepSeek randomly without understanding what information it is giving that AI to learn about themselves. So unknowingly, there are a lot of data privacy risks. And having said that, how important do you think there is a need for a human-in-the-loop approach to ensure that we are building a fair and transparent system in an organization, keeping all of these points in the parlance?
Very good point. I think it makes the life of the HR people and the chief ethics officer very, very difficult. Because AI is going in leaps and bounds, and it is standing on the edge of entering into the organization in various shapes and sizes, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about agentic AI, right? And tomorrow, an HR person is going to manage AI agent and a human agent. How will he or she be able to apply the same standards of ethics to people, right? I think it's important, like you said, to watch out for algorithmic biases. And I've seen this happen in hiring a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, So you create a persona and you say that this is somebody we want, okay? And then the AI gets into the picture and starts sorting or kind of sieving those resumes. I've known cases where the AI has been trained to kind of look at managers, a hiring managers, kind of wants, needs, and desires for candidates. Okay, and the hiring team has actually gone ahead and configured that. Can you imagine how dangerous that is? AI is supposed to cut unconscious bias. Here it is actually trained to do, kind of promote unconscious bias of a hiring manager, right? So algorithmic biases not only in terms of hiring, but also in terms of, say, performance, okay, productivity. All these things we really need to look at, and that's why I said there's a enormous amount of pressure on the HR people to actually understand where such kind of algorithmic biases can creep in. That's point number one. Point number two is that, AI is supposed to augment human behavior. And that's why we talk about human in the loop. Okay? We need to understand that AI can never replace the entire workforce of an organization, because there will be still tasks that human needs to do. So today we are defining the resource pyramid of an organization in terms of decision making. At the lowest level of the pyramid is yes or no deterministic decisions where AI will take place. But above that will be decisions where human beings will have to bring in the natural intelligence, because they still can actually deal with a vast number of more situations and things, or cues, which AI maybe can be trained, but it will take some time. Okay. The third thing is to ensure that data privacy. Okay, I know people who are using AI, of course, in a experimental sort of way to create personas. Yeah. So, for example, seriously, you come to, say, in an organization, you come every day onto few Zoom calls, okay? And it is noticed that, because you're working from home, you've got this thing, you come in maybe 2 minutes late, 3 minutes late, okay? Somebody is actually extracting that data and saying that, okay, Shreyasi's persona is something like this, okay? And Shreyasi doesn't even know about it. So I think that's very important, that data privacy. What data you take from me, what are you recording? Because every day, all of us are leaving our digital footprint and we are creating digital garbage. Somebody can sieve through that and create a lot of things that you personally would not like somebody to know about you. So data privacy is very important. I think these three things are fundamental to how we actually approach AI in organizations.
In today's times, anything that we build in an organization has to have a good marriage with technology. Without technology, I don't think so there is any space for a paper and pen exercise anymore. Now, coming to that, I want to understand from you that how do we build a symbiotic relation between an ethical organization and technology? And also, how do we use this platform to create a speak-up culture? Because in today's times, what we see is people are scared. People are scared to report. People are scared to lose their jobs. And mostly they don't know that if they report, how will an unethical incident be handled in an organization? So how do we promote that speak-up culture, and how do we ensure that we build something resilient in a symbiotic way with the help of technology?
Correct. I think so. As I told you earlier also, culture is about people and employees in the organization. And employees, though they can be your biggest asset, can also be your biggest liability. And there is where you need technology to come in, and you need to invest in that, because it has to be seen as a strategic investment, because it will differentiate you from your nearest competitors. It will differentiate you in front of the investors, your talent, etc., to show that you are actually doing the right things in terms of corporate governance also. So when we talk about technology, technology becomes the biggest differentiator or advantage of creating a space where ethics becomes more important. So first thing, technology can be used to drive all the policies, etc. Okay, you can do blockchain to actually understand the background check of people. Okay, you can do AR VR to train employees on the ethical practices. Okay, you can create, like you rightly said, a digital platform for technology. Okay, you know that we have a employee risk advisory service, but the core of it is a digital whistleblowing platform which we call Disclose Without Fear. It allows employees to come in and log in a report or an incident, ethical violation, without the fear of retaliation, victimization, or social ostracism. Okay, so we are talking about a platform which helps people, create that sense of psychological safety that we talk about, that employees need at their workplace. So technology can be a big differentiator. The second thing that we use technology for is to do predictive analytics. We look at the trends and we find out that there could be a violation. The third thing that we do is create those reports and analytics which actually help organizations understand what is happening in the darkest corners of the organization. Okay, so I think you're right. Technology is a big advantage and a great differentiator when we are talking about creating a culture of ethics in an organization.
Wonderfully said. And I'm so happy to know that there is already a platform in place which can help so many organizations who are suffering from, this issue of ethical violations. And it's great that it encourages people to speak up without fear, without any stigma. So it's wonderful, and kudos to you for creating this along with your team.
Thank you,
On
Stacey.
that note, we would like to wrap up the first episode. I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your time today and for giving so many wonderful insights on technology, on ethics, on governance, on people frameworks. I'm sure a lot of companies can get very valuable insights through this podcast. And I would like to mention it to all the followers who are watching this, that stay tuned for more exciting episodes. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Stacey. It was a pleasure to be featured on your first podcast. I'm so happy, and we had a great conversation. Thank you so much.